Hello, peeps. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're still with me because I'm still researching and looking up all kinds of things for the UnMothered podcast. And, it's not hard with things being the way they are these days. There's so much information and so many things going out in the world. And per usual, I saw something that kind of made me pause for a minute and think, because I thought this was a really important subject, especially if you've grown up as a child of divorced parents. So today I'm going to talk about something in particular, a story that I saw, but also just in general. And it just got this subject rolling around in my head. And it is, did you grow up in a divorced family, or did you grow up in a Christian home where divorce by any means was not accepted? And why, and which of these statements settles with you, or you still highly believe in, even at all costs. So that's just kind of what we're going to talk about, is like having these strong feelings either way, of people staying together or coming as a child of divorce, like how you feel about that. Do you feel strongly one way or another? If you were born in a Christian family, do you feel strongly one way or another? I know a lot of Christians who feel extremely, even young girls that feel extremely bent on, you only get married once and that's it. And, that's the way it has to be. But what happens when it goes horribly wrong and it's not your choice and you didn't ask for that? Like, things are happening around you within your marriage where you're like, this wasn't supposed to be this way. I do want to follow the laws of biblical truth of, God hates divorce. That's always a verse that gets thrown out there. And I think it gets misused in a lot of ways, where it can be harmful, because I think God hates a lot of things, namely divorce. I don't think he loves divorce, but I also think people forget about grace and forgiveness also in these places. It's the same thing with abortion, which is a whole nother subject, but it's like we have these ticker tapes of laws in our head and what we've read biblically, that it's like it has to be this way or no way. But there are moments when, even in circumstances out of your control or that are dangerous, you don't have a choice but to make a choice that you never wanted to make. So this is what I wanted to talk about today, because I will say, as a child of divorce, one, I didn't believe in happily ever after. Not really. Like, I wanted it, but I realized with every person that I was with, and every time I would get engaged, and the first marriage that didn't work, it was like I just didn't believe that anything was 100% until I met Mike, one, and I started becoming really peaceful and happy. And then I wanted to find God in the mix. So I didn't find God first. God found me. He was always with me, but it drew me into this happily ever after kind of state. But what I wanted to really kind of hone in on today was something that just happened a few weeks ago. And it was between a well-known author of many, 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 many Christian books. I'm not going to name this person. He's already named himself. He posted this. I just don't want to make it about him. I'm just talking, I want to talk in generalizations of just how divorce and what we think of the sanctity of marriage and how far we'll take it in order to stay in it. And so when I saw this posting from this well-known author, Christian author, that so many people have read his books. I've read a few of them. Amazing writer, beautifully spoken, the love of Jesus, following God's ways. I think this breaks everyone's heart, but it breaks my heart more because I wasn't raised in the church, that when I would read, when people would recommend other people's books that had been in this, I want to say business, because they were selling books. They've been in this Christian writing business for so long and studied God's word and were supposed to live by God's word. I think there's a level of responsibility there. And so when I read this again, I'm like, gosh, it pains me the same way I know it pains even Christian people that have been in the church their whole life. When you have to read about a writer or a pastor or someone that is, in the business of, for lack of a better word, selling Jesus, selling the idea of your Christian walk will mean something and it will look different. And yet, this is happening in just regular culture that I grew up in. People were cheating and stealing and whatever. And now you get this guy. So he posted this thing that he had been having an 8-year affair. Now, I would say that's not an affair. That's a whole second life. If you've been with another woman for 8 years, that means you're spending some time at her home or wherever you guys were. I don't know if this woman's married or not. I don't know all the details, don't really care. But I'm like, 8 years, that's a relationship. That's not an affair. And so the question then became, after he posted this whole thing, the mea culpa is like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah. It's just sad and sickening, because you're just like, what? Like, were we just sold a lie that this guy was like professing all of these things, just like we've heard so many times before, professing the love of Jesus, trying to live this higher life, and yet you're having this whole secret thing over here, which proves to people that are very legalistic is that we are all human and we all fall. So I don't like when people go on this legalistic bent of like, this is how it is and this is how. It's like, sure, you're going to try to live your life, but guess what? You're going to live your life that way, but you're also going to fall on the sword once in a while too. Maybe not to that degree, but we all fall short. We're never going to get to a place of excellence here on earth. But there are certain things that I think, one, he should have been in a place where as soon as that started happening, he could have backed away and said, something's wrong with me. Like, something is going on with me. I need to go get help for this. To stay in an 8-year affair, to me, just says there's something bigger going on, and there wasn't really any kind of compassion or caring on the part of like, what is this doing to my marriage and my wife? So after he posted this whole long thing about how he's so sorry and he's stepping away and, all the right things that everyone says, all the buzzwords, then the questions in the comments became, should his wife leave him? Should she divorce him? And it was so varied. Of course, the Christian world, the strong legalistic Christian world is like, you can't divorce him. Like, God doesn't like divorce. You need to stay with him. And then you have like some in the middle, or some people that, may not be as religious or not religious at all, saying, heck yeah, she should divorce him. Like, what a creep. Which we all are feeling like he is creepy to do that. Not fair. But there's these things in the middle that I when I was reading these comments, that it really hurt my feelings, because I thought it's such a layered question and nobody ever knows, obviously, because you looked and you put this guy on a pedestal of like the best Christian author of all time. And no one knows what goes on behind closed doors. Nobody. Not in a Christian home, not in a pastor's home, not in a ratchet home, hello, that I grew up in, not in a healthy home, hello, which I think we have in our family. But, we have things that are personal to us. We have faults in our home. We have things that we cry about that we don't share with other people, because it's nobody's business. and it's no one's business to judge it. When you're not in the particularities of that story and you don't know what's going on in that person's home and what's happened to them, and also like the varied stories that they both come from, like unless you know the history of who these people are and what they've been doing for years, like you don't know what's happening. And so it's easy to just put a pin in it and go, nope, we walk the Christian walk. And even if he falls, she needs to stay with him. And that's the way it needs to be. It's like, that's not our business to make that claim. You could potentially be sending somebody back into a situation that is dangerous. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying I have many, many stories and many friends that I've met over the years in the writer world where I have heard horrendous stories of women that were staying in marriages. Their husbands were pastors and they were cheated on, they were beaten, the men were drug addicted. A lot of things. If anything, I would say we need to start having a conversation about surrounding our pastors better, because there is a lot of sickness where pastors are, where people are ignoring them and they are crying out for help, and we are not helping them mentally and emotionally. And so that I think needs to be a whole subject, not God hates divorce, but like, why are these things happening to these men that they feel that they can't go anywhere else but outside their marriage? Hey, that might be a question you should be asking, not saying, this is the way it has to be. And so I think for me, growing up as a child of divorce, there was these mixed feelings of like, do I trust love? And then after becoming a Christian, feeling the guilt of, oh my gosh, I didn't do it right. I divorced once and now I'm in this marriage. But I've been with Mike for 40 years. So I tell people, like, I feel like this is our first marriage and I do believe in the sanctity of marriage. And at this point in my life, we've been married for 37 years. We've been together for 40. And so I, have wholeheartedly made a commitment to this relationship. And that has taken a lot of work. And there just are a lot of things that we had to work the bugs out for. So I understand the sanctity of marriage. I know that God blesses marriage. And here's the thing, God blessed my second marriage. So that's a beautiful thing, right? So you can throw out the verse of God hates divorce, but you also have to remember that God loves you and he also will forgive you and put you on the right path and give you a second, a third, a 4,000th chance if you ask him. Now, he's not saying go out and get married 50 times, but I think that, there are these things where there are laws and then there are addendums to that law of like, yes, and yes, he hates divorce and he will also protect you through this hard time if you follow back in line with him. So I think that with all the creepiness of life and everything that happens, I think that we have to make a choice. Like, do we stay or do we go? I think that the choice is only up to the person who is in that position. So namely, this author's wife, who has said, I'm not ready to make a decision yet. That's okay, because this is her choice. And if people get mad at her for going back to a man who has cheated on her for 8 years, I don't even like to say cheat. He's lived a separate life for 8 years. He has lied. Even though that's happened, that has to be her choice to go back. I would say for her to really do some deep soul searching and realize, am I going back to please the masses so that I can uphold the sanctity of marriage? Or am I staying out of love for this person and I don't really want to hear the noise of the outside world? I just believe that we can still build something from this. I have met people who have survived their husbands being unfaithful, and their marriages are thriving. So that's not always a given. I know when I was younger, I used to say, if someone cheats on me, which is what happened all the time before I got married, if he cheats on me, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. And it's easy to say that. But when you've been in a 40-year marriage like this couple has, when you've been in a 10-year marriage, when you've been in a year marriage and you believe in the sanctity of marriage, it's really hard to then just like throw it all away if you think that there's a chance that both of you, not just one of you, but both of you can really give it a go, make some changes, and really believe that this will never happen again, and take a step towards that. I don't think it works when it's one person who's giving all and the other person is still going out there and doing whatever they want to do and saying, well, you can't divorce me because, we're Christians and you have to, God doesn't believe in divorce, so therefore you have to stay with me, but yet I can do whatever I want on the side over here. That's not okay. And that's not what that verse means. And that's not in a marriage you should be and be okay with. So divorce is hard no matter, who decides to file for it, who's the first one to choose it. It's hard no matter what. I walked away from my first marriage. It was my choice because I saw some really big red flags, and it turns out I was right. That marriage was not right for me, but also I was not ready for that marriage. So I take responsibility for it as far as that goes. And it is a failure on some levels, but sometimes it's necessary, and that's why I'll never judge what someone else has to do. And in the terms of this woman, like, she doesn't need to share her personal information with the world, with anyone. She doesn't need to explain it. I'm sure people are trying to interview her and what are you going to do and what's happening and what do you think he did for the last 8 years? And who was this woman? And what's going on? And all these questions. But really, at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. And I do think that there is something about coming from a broken home when you are a product of divorce. You kind of get a little hardened by that. And that's why I just thought this was a good subject today, because I think it shows us that, yes, like if you come from that background, you kind of look at these stories and you go, of course that's going to happen. Like, who believes in love happily ever after kind of thing, if you're in that emotional state. But I think that if you look at this marriage as someone who has walked a Christian walk and has tried to do the right thing, it can be very devastating for that dream to die. And so I think on that level, there's going to be a time of mourning for this woman, that she's going to have to realize that who she thought she was with and how she thought this marriage was going to be was not how it was going to be. And even then, I think with time, she can find her footing and decide, like, do I want to stay or do I want to go? And either way, she's going to be okay if she takes the time to get the help that she needs to understand what part she played in this relationship, and what she thinks of this relationship now, and moving forward, what is it going to look like? It took me years to get through intrusive thoughts about marriage and just thinking that, I really didn't want to be in an everlasting thing. And I remember even early on in my marriage to Mike, when we would get in these disagreements, it was like my thought process was always to run. And it was like I was already decorating my next apartment. It's like, I'm out of here. Let's go. Commitment is hard. And it takes time and it takes years. And you really have to find a place where you wake up one day and you realize, I'm never going to leave. It's okay. It is safe here. There are things that get uncomfortable. There's times when it's not easy, but it's okay. We're gonna make it through. And I think that if this particular woman, the author's wife, can get back to a place of like, who am I and where can I get back to who I am and what I need out of this marriage or not, I think she'll be okay. So there's a couple of points that I have today before we close out, and hopefully this will help you if you're in a place where you're just kind of like how do I feel about divorce? Or maybe you're going through a really hard time, like this author's wife, and you're going through a situation where you're like, I don't know what I believe in anymore. And, all of this is swayed by our childhood stories and what we think about love and things. And so that's why I thought this was a good subject today. But I just wanted to leave a couple of points with you. And one is make sure that you're not swayed to run away when things get tough in your own marriage. And I don't mean physically tough. So you should never stay where there is some kind of abuse. But do you want to flee when things become uncomfortable? Like that's something you need to question in yourself. Do you believe in happily ever after? It just might be something you want to explore where you have doubts, because that could be coming from a childhood story that you heard from someone else that was an adult at the time, or something that you just like falsely believed in from the time you were a child until now. And now you're kind of going, I don't know if I believe in that or not, or why am I feeling so uncomfortable or just feeling a particular way. Don't judge others if they decide to stay and it doesn't fit into your mindset of how you would do things. Like I said earlier, you don't know what goes on in their house behind closed doors. We shouldn't judge divorce, and we shouldn't judge someone if they decide to work out their marriage once again. Either way, this is their decision, and we need to have grace when it comes to that, and not like a hard line of what you think that they should do. Don't be like that, and don't be that kind of friend. Just be there for them and let them explore all things and help them through it. Know that life comes in many forms, and most of the time it never plays out the way we thought it would. Boy, do I know that. I would encourage you to remain steadfast in what you feel in your soul. God gave us a spirit to follow, and also your life and decisions are between God and you. He'll always guide you to the life you were meant to be and have, even the rough parts. Trust in him. He is with you. Ask me how I know. Anyway, I hope this episode helped you guys today. And I have some other stuff coming down the line. And also, shameless plug, by the time this airs, this book is going to be out on Amazon. It's my latest book called UnMothered No More, The Healing Power of Walking Through Your Childhood Story. So this is a great coaching book for anyone that just needs a little reference book on hand on how to do life when you've grown up without a mom. It's a lot of guided things in these chapters, and I'll be talking more about it as other episodes come out. But I'm super proud of it, and I hope you guys have a great day. Go out and buy it if you are watching this and it's after February, because I think the book is coming out February 23rd. And until then, I will see you later. Bye, peeps.